Oak Island, a place that had guarded its mystery for over 2 centuries, the team made a discovery that would change everything. What started as another day of drilling ended with a moment that left everyone speechless. Beneath layers of bedrock and centuries of traps, the crew's sensors picked up something strange, a hollow space, perfectly round, sealed tight, and untouched by time. Rick Lagina stood over the borehole, eyes fixed on the monitor. The air coming from below was cold and heavy, carrying the scent of something ancient. For the first time in Oak Island's long history, the evidence was undeniable. The vault was real. For more than 200 years, people had searched, dug, and dreamed of this moment. Every expedition had ended the same way, with broken equipment, flooding tunnels, and unanswered questions. But this time was different. The instruments lit up with readings that no one could explain. Oxygen pockets, magnetic waves, and metallic echoes buried more than 100 feet below. At 10:42 a.m. on September 21, 2025, as cameras rolled, a faint glimmer appeared on the live feed. At first, it looked like water on stone, but then a golden reflection flashed across the screen. The room fell silent. Oak Island had finally spoken. Initial analysis shocked everyone. Scans suggested more than 450 kilograms of gold scattered through several sections of the chamber, along with over 2,000 ancient relics, coins, tools, and items made by human hands centuries ago. It wasn't just treasure, it was history. For Rick Lagina, it was more than a victory. It was proof that patience and faith could still uncover miracles. Every ounce of that discovery had been earned through exhaustion, machinery breakdowns, and countless sleepless nights. Pumps had worked nonstop for weeks, draining thousands of liters of water every hour. Stood at the edge of the pit, Rick couldn't help but wonder, was this the treasure of the Knights Templar? Or something even older, something meant to stay hidden forever? The story had actually begun months earlier. One foggy morning, while checking borehole 10X, Rick noticed a small metallic sparkle in the dirt, something so faint most people would have missed it. But Rick didn't ignore it. Something about it felt deliberate, almost like the island was offering a clue. Soon, advanced scanners revealed a hollow cavity roughly 112 feet below the surface, surrounded by what looked like carved stone. Not a natural formation, but a structure. Rick's instincts told him this was the real thing. If the island whispers, he said, you listen. The digging resumed. Clay, limestone, and debris gave way slowly under relentless drilling. Then, on August 12, 2025, the drill struck something smooth, almost polished. When the sample came up, everyone gasped. It glimmered faintly with real gold. The magnetometer spiked. The chamber existed, and they were right above it. A camera probe was lowered through a narrow shaft. The images that appeared on the monitor left the entire crew frozen. The camera showed curved metal surfaces, gold reflections, and wooden beams cut and stacked with impossible precision. But entering the vault wasn't simple. The trapped air below was ancient. A single wrong move could flood or destroy it forever. So Rick waited. We've waited 2 centuries, he said. A few more days won't hurt. But the island had its own plans. At 7:15 a.m., a loud crack shook the ground. The tunnel trembled, air hissed, and water burst through cracks in the rock. The pumps failed. In minutes, the pit was gone, swallowed by mud and rushing water. The site went quiet. Rick stood still, watching his life's work vanish beneath the waves. But instead of despair, he said one thing: mark it. The island never destroys, it redirects. When the team mapped the collapse, a strange pattern emerged. a perfect curve leading west. It wasn't random. The island was pointing them to something deeper. Days later, sonar confirmed a second anomaly, rectangular, metallic, buried beneath the failed shaft. They drilled again, and this time the readings dropped suddenly. Another hollow space. A camera revealed a stone floor with a golden cross engraved in its center. "This isn't just treasure," Rick whispered. "It's design, it's purpose." But the deeper they dug, the stranger it became. The chamber walls appeared to be reinforced with a metallic coating, almost as if it were built to defend itself. At night, Gary Drayton noticed something odd, rhythmic vibrations on the sonar, faint but repeating like a heartbeat. "The island's alive," he murmured. Then came the storm. A violent Atlantic gale hit Mahone Bay, tearing apart equipment and flooding every shaft. When it was over, half the site was gone. The entrance to the vault had collapsed again, twisted steel buried under mud. Rick stood in silence. "If it's lost," he said, "we'll find it again." The next morning, Gary made an unbelievable discovery near the shoreline. A bronze cross covered in seaweed and carved with strange markings. It matched the one seen in the chamber. That single artifact changed everything. The treasure hadn't vanished, it had shifted. After days of digging, the crew found a hidden tunnel leading towards Smith's Cove. A drone camera revealed a massive stone slab etched with mysterious symbols. When the light hit it just right, gold shone from beneath its cracks. "That's not a rock," Rick said. "That's a seal." Drilling through it revealed what the world had waited 200 years to see. A chamber filled with gold, relics, and chests wrapped in iron bands. At the center stood a large wooden crate, the legendary vault itself. Inside were gold coins, jeweled relics, and fragments of manuscripts sealed in wax. Experts identified them as early 14th century, the era of the Knights Templar. One of the parchments bore the words, "Custodia Veritatis," the keeper of truth. It described a group of Templar knights who fled persecution in Europe, carrying their sacred covenant across the ocean to a land beyond the setting sun. They built a vault to protect what they called the light of the world. For historians, the implications were staggering. This was no ordinary treasure. It was evidence that the Templars might have reached North America long before Columbus. Rick's voice trembled as he read the translation aloud. "They came here to protect something
greater than gold," he said. "Something they believed the world wasn't ready to see." Experts from around the globe rushed to Oak Island. The Vatican, museums, and scholars demanded access to the find. But Rick and Marty Lagina insisted the artifacts stay where they were discovered, as part of history's greatest unsolved mystery. Weeks of study revealed more secrets. Under ultraviolet light, faint markings on the manuscripts formed a hidden map, connecting Oak Island to several points across Europe, southern France, Scotland, and the Holy Land. It wasn't just one treasure, it was a network. Oak Island was only one part of a much larger story. By year's end, the site was declared a protected heritage zone. The vault was sealed once more, not out of fear, but out of reverence. The Lagina brothers knew the island had given them more than gold. It had given them its truth. As night fell, Rick stood alone by the shore, the wind soft and the stars bright above him. The island was quiet now, its secret finally told. He smiled faintly and whispered, "You kept your promise." The waves rolled in gently, as if answering him, calm, endless, eternal. And so, after more than 200 years, Oak Island's greatest mystery was finally solved. But for those who know its story, the island still whispers. Because every mystery, no matter how deep, leaves an echo. As dusk fell over Mahone Bay, the world held its breath. The discovery on Oak Island had already shaken history, but no one yet understood the scale of what had been unearthed. Inside the sealed chamber lay not just gold, but the voice of an ancient brotherhood whose influence stretched across oceans and centuries. For Rick Lagina, sleep became impossible. Night after night, he sat in the small cabin overlooking the dig site, replaying the footage frame by frame. Each artifact, each mark in the stone walls seemed to whisper a deeper truth. It wasn't about wealth anymore. It was about purpose. The Templars hadn't hidden their treasure for greed. They had buried it to preserve something far more sacred. Knowledge that could rewrite what humanity believed about faith, power, and the passage of time. The following morning, forensic analysts arrived from across the globe. Teams from France, Scotland, and Italy collaborated to analyze every object from the vault. The coins were confirmed to be genuine medieval mints from Paris
and Jerusalem, provenance directly tied to the final days of the Knights Templar. The wooden chest was carved from oak native to Europe, not Nova Scotia. The symbols engraved upon it matched those found in ancient Templar churches in Portugal and Scotland. And yet, there was one discovery that none of them could explain: the glass vial. Inside it was a fragment of parchment so delicate that it could only be examined under controlled light. As specialists gently unfurled it, faded ink revealed a single line written in Latin: Custodiam lumen veritatis, etiam in tenebris. Guard the light of truth, even in darkness. Rick felt a chill run through him. The message was more than poetic, it was prophetic. It was as if the Templars had left behind a message meant not for their time, but for ours. By mid-October, excavation crews began mapping tunnels branching out from the main vault. The readings were astonishing. Some passages extended deep beneath the island, forming a labyrinth-like network that connected multiple sealed chambers. Engineers theorized that the builders had used advanced hydraulic systems to flood and protect the treasure, technologies centuries ahead of their time. Each discovery deepened the mystery. Beneath one tunnel, sonar detected what appeared to be a circular structure nearly 40 feet wide. The data was puzzling. It was too symmetrical, too precise to be natural. Some believed it was a tomb, others an ancient repository. When the first robotic probe entered the chamber, the world watched in silence. The feed showed stone steps spiraling downward, leading into a central pit lined with metallic panels. Symbols covered the walls. Crosses, circles, triangles, all interlocked, forming what looked like a celestial map. Gary Drayton, voice trembling, whispered, "It's like they mapped the heavens down here." Rick nodded. "Maybe they believed heaven wasn't up there," he said quietly, "but buried within
the earth itself." 2 days later, the analysis of one of the scrolls from the chest brought a shocking revelation. The ink used on it contained trace elements of gold and copper, rare compounds once used only for royal decrees or sacred scripture. But what truly stunned everyone was its translation. It spoke of a covenant of light carried across the ocean to the western edge of the world and hidden beneath the island of the dawn mist. The phrasing matched the geographic characteristics of Oak Island perfectly. The manuscript also referenced custodes, guardians, who would one day awaken when truth is sought not for power, but for faith. That evening, Rick gathered the crew by the campfire. The stars reflected on the still waters of Mahone Bay as he spoke. If these men crossed an ocean 600 years ago to hide something here, then it wasn't just about gold. It was about keeping something sacred safe from those who would destroy it. And maybe, he added, looking toward the dark silhouette of the island, maybe it waited for the right people to find it. The group sat in silence. Even the waves seemed to pause, as if the island itself was listening. Within weeks, the Oak Island discovery dominated every global headline. The Vatican dispatched a team of historians to verify the manuscripts. The French government claimed ancestral heritage over the Templar artifacts. Universities across the world sent experts to study the chamber. Debates erupted across social media and television. Was Oak Island truly a Templar outpost? Could the relics be linked to the fabled Holy Grail? Despite the noise, Rick remained calm. "Let them debate," he said in one interview. "We're not chasing myths, we're preserving truth." But the island wasn't finished revealing itself. Late one night, seismic sensors picked up faint tremors beneath the excavation site. The readings showed rhythmic pulses occurring at exact intervals, almost like a heartbeat. At first, the team assumed it was machinery interference, but when they turned everything off, the signal continued. "The island's alive," Gary muttered again. "It's always been alive." Rick watched the readings on the monitor. The pulses were coming from the same coordinates as the newly discovered circular chamber. Maybe it's not alive. Maybe it's...
By winter, Oak Island had become more than a dig site. It was a living monument. The treasure, estimated at over $200 million in historical value, was sealed in a climate-controlled facility under government protection. Yet the manuscripts, the true heart of the discovery, remained under Rick's care. One manuscript, written by Frater Guillaume, ended with a haunting line. "In the day when men again seek the truth with clean hearts, the light shall rise from the stone." Rick often reread that line as the wind howled across the bay. The gold, the artifacts, the centuries of struggle, they were all part of something much greater. Oak Island wasn't just a place. It was a bridge between eras, between belief and discovery, between myth and reality. As the final sunset of the season bathed the island in gold, Rick stood at the edge of the water, the old bronze cross in his hand. "You kept your secret well," he murmured to the horizon, "but you chose the right time to tell it." The waves rolled in gently, whispering against the shore. The island, silent for 200 years, had finally spoken, and this time the world was listening. The world changed overnight. When the footage of the Oak Island chamber went public, millions watched in awe. News anchors, historians, and conspiracy theorists all said the same thing: this discovery will rewrite history. But for Rick Lagina, the fame didn't matter. What mattered were the manuscripts, the voices of men who had crossed oceans to protect a truth they could never reveal. The gold, the relics, even the cross, all of it was secondary to the words inked onto those fragile pages. Within days, the Vatican officially requested access to the scrolls, citing spiritual and historical interest. Their representatives arrived quietly, dressed not in robes, but in modern suits, escorted by a discreet security detail. They examined the documents in silence, speaking only in Latin among themselves. After hours of study, the lead Vatican historian finally looked up and said one sentence that would echo
Across the academic world, these were not just knights, they were witnesses. No one understood what he meant, not yet. The Hidden Code. In early November, linguists from Oxford and the Sorbonne began analyzing the third manuscript, Custodia Veritatis, the Keeper of Truth. At first glance, it seemed like a journal, but when scanned under ultraviolet light, faint invisible symbols appeared between the lines. The markings were not random. They formed geometric shapes, intersecting at precise angles. Dr. Isabelle Moreau, a medieval code specialist, gasped as she overlaid the patterns onto a map of the North Atlantic. The symbols aligned perfectly with a series of known Templar strongholds, from Portugal to Scotland, and one final mark rested exactly on Oak Island.
This isn't a